What's going on, everyone? We got an extra special guest today. Someone who's been in law enforcement, who's been all over the media, has his own shows on multiple platforms, including right here on YouTube. We got to get him uploading again. He's a master in self-defense. He's been in law enforcement and outspoken on political issues. And my guys, it's a pleasure to have my good friend Dominick Izzo on. What's up, brother?
Not much. Who the hell would ever think I'd be doing a podcast with you on this channel? This is awesome. This is awesome.
It's awesome to have you, dude. I was happy to be on your podcast. I mean, and also I'd like to give a shout out. Because of you, I bought a suit, my first suit since I was 21 years old. And not only that, it is a dapper suit. I've worn it to my daughter's graduation, and that's about it. But it's there in case the need arises. So why do you always wear a suit? I love this story.
Here's the deal. There you go. There's the suit. You see it done. What I do is it's to show your audience respect and you, right? You ask for my time, which means you value what I have to say. So I show up showing you the respect and you, the audience, the respect you deserve. Then we get comfortable. We have a conversation. And I learned that from Leo Biscaglia, who was a professor in the 60s and 70s. And he would show up to lectures in a jacket, show, hey, I have respect for you, and then take it off so you can get comfortable. Because I never want to stay in the suit and be like, oh, I'm better than you. No, I'm not. Just showing respect. That's it. So that's the purpose of the suits. It just shows that I take those who want to hear what I have to say seriously, and then we have conversations.
Yeah, and I do something similar. If you notice, most of my videos, unless it's like post-workout or something, I'm always in a polo shirt or a nice shirt. You know, I always dress up for work, even though, unless I'm traveling, which is more often than I'd like, I work out of my house just because I feel like, you know, like I don't feel like if I'm going to play baseball seriously, I want to put a baseball uniform on, right? If I'm going to do a sport or an activity, same reason you don't lift weights in jeans, right? Like, I don't understand how people could do that. Like, I need to be in the zone and get my gym clothes on. I can't do it. Well, our RFK does that too. He's got the jeans. That's kind of his thing.
Yeah, that was the Barbarian Brothers from the 80s did that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I did that at the old Powerhouse Gym off of Wise Road in Schaumburg in early 90s. They're like, hey, we don't mind it, but, you know, we don't want your buckles to tear up. So, yeah, I was guilty.
Is that gym still there?
No, that was we had a Gold's Gym. Now, I know you and I were in the same state, not that far from each other.
Right there. Yeah, no, I was right in Elgin.
Yeah, I was in Hoffman Estates, so we were friggin' 15 minutes apart. Never met.
Yeah.
There was the only Gold's Gym we had in the state. I was too young to join. 15. It was where in Schaumburg, Roselle and Gulf Road, and then by the time I was able to sign up, it left. But yeah, we had Powerhouse Gyms for a while. Then it turned into Export. Export's gone. Yeah. Now we actually have Powerhouse Gym in Palatine is back, and that's where I go.
Oh,
giving them
that's not bad. Export got bought by East Sporta, right? Did they buy them out?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's gotten a little, that Export in St. Charles was hard. They had all the hardcore machines. It was 2 stories. That gym, I used to train there all the time. That was a good gym, man. I liked Export.
Except the bathrooms were never clean. You got toilet paper and urine all over the place, and nobody could ever keep it clean. The members of Export were the worst. They were the ones.
Oh God, they were terrible. Yeah. That's why I go to LA Fitness every once in a while when I wanted to feel hygienic. Other than that, I went to, but you know what? I've trained at Dorian's gym when he had his gym up in Birmingham, UK, where I saw there was a door open and I looked in the bathroom, like, that's the most disgusting bathroom. That was the women's bathroom. If you went down, then you saw the real disgusting. That was the men's bathroom. Like, Dorian didn't really care about cleaning it. And what I didn't understand is they sold like smoothies there. I wouldn't drink anything from that gym. Like, I'm such a hypochondriac with that. I'd be like, nah, I'm good. No, Dorian, seriously, thank you, but I'm gonna just get something to eat later. I'm good to go.
Different standards for cleanliness that the Department of Health is going to come in the UK. Plus, it's Dorian's gym. Come on, man.
No one's inspecting that gym because it would never pass. Like, I don't think people understand when you walk back there. First of all, it's in an alley, and you have to go downstairs. It's like a basement, and it's surrounded by overflowing trash cans at the time. And like, you could see rats just running around in the alley. And you're like, did I take a wrong? Because Birmingham, where it's at is gorgeous. Downtown Birmingham, like, you know, beautiful buildings and Starbucks. It's great. And then you go down that alley and you're in a different world. And it's no longer there, but I can say that I had the honor of training with Dorian at that gym. What an experience that was. Man, do you have any of those experiences where you train somewhere and you're like, oh, this is great?
No, when I first started, that was the powerhouse was great.
Yeah.
You had the metal plates that clanked when you were, finally strong enough to bench 225, and you had 2 plates on there with no collars, and you heard the rattling. I'm like 22 years old going, yes. Now we got the plaques or whatever coated plates, can't hear it. So those days are gone. Chalk all over the gym, those are gone. I've never been to the Metroflex, and I guess I understand the concept. Hardcore, like it was the old, it was Ivanko dumbbells. That those, I don't know, those feel better than any other dumbbells I've ever pulled on the planet. That hardcore concept is gone now. You don't have that environment anymore. I feel guilty if I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. It's like, so I don't know.
I don't even know if I'm that guy. I have headphones in. I have a feeling I'm audible, but I can't tell. But when we do like videos, and I'm not purposely doing it, when we do like training videos for Ambrosia and stuff, I'll notice that, am I really, even my breathing, like with a mic on, knowing there's a camera, I breathe, I'm a mouth breather. Like, it's terrible. But I mean, at the end of it, if I'm exerting, I'm going to make noise. It's just like sex, except when there's kids in the house, but you don't have kids, you don't know about that. Yeah. You have to learn to bite pillows. Yeah. I just made it sound like I'm getting pegged.
There's that prostate I keep hearing about.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it's better than the G-spot.
Yeah, everyone says that. I asked my girlfriend. I said, "Hey, listen, I'm not saying I want to, but if I ever did, are you open?" She's like, "We'll have a discussion." So I don't know.
My wife would not go within 10 miles of that conversation. I mean, she's basically June Cleaver. She's not playing that game. It's missionary or nothing. That's how we roll here.
You get older, you get more secure, and you're like, man, you know what? I'm in a new decade. I'm now, I think I'm a few years away from being a senior citizen. I don't give a fuck. I don't. I got maybe 30 years left on this planet. Let's do what we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years would be good. I don't want to be old. That's why we talk about health span. And I think that's the best thing we've done in the past decade of this whole journey. And everybody makes fun of biohackers, but they got us to think about things, right? Like, it's not just about being here for a long time. It's about being here for a good time. And you got these crazy people like Brian Johnson wants to live to 150, whatever. But what they did is that extreme has us normal guys thinking about, wait a second, what if I did just 10% of that? Would I feel better if I just added in this? If I'm not, what was he? He was getting blood transfusions from his kid or something.
Yeah. My son.
I'm not going there, but like, if he's doing something that I can implement, that's going to make me feel 5% better. Like, I'm okay with those people because they're doing the stuff like extreme. And I got to say, like, look, man, I respect what he's doing, but a lot of it's just, maybe it's me, kind of like the pegging thing, but it's creeping me out a little bit, man. It's just creeping me out.
Start with rimming, and then you work with, and everything he's doing is preventative. And people need to look at it. I'm going to tell you flat out, if your audience is fitness conscious, do not lax on that. I'm 50 years old and everything is difficult. I've commented on your other videos when you talk about gear and shit. I always love it because people are like, they're making accusations. And I've said, I can guarantee you I'm on more than you are, and I look worse than you do. And it's simply because I'm playing a catch-up game where I'm 5'7". 235 pounds. And I can guarantee you I'm upwards between 25 to 29% body fat. There's no question. Everything has changed because I've always done the whole, we'll get to that. And then all of a sudden you've got to undo all of this. And the quality of life changes when you are ignorant and you get lax on those small, progressive, preventative things. And now you've got to undo it. In your 50s, late 40s, it's very difficult. So you've got the formula for quality of life. And that's what more people pay attention to. That's why it's like, I've been following your stuff the last 15 years. It's like, yeah. But I'm not a professional in it. And I let it go to the wayside. And then it's like, then you get the extreme gurus. It's like, man, if you just did these small building blocks, your foundation would have been fantastic. So yeah, it's a big game that people need to not neglect.
Yeah, one thing I'm really, happy with, I've done some things wrong, is I always looked at the long term. I always looked at longevity. I quit bodybuilding in 2013 to box. And I think that was the best decision I ever made, because the other guy, I would have gone, I'm not going to lie. Like 2013, that's when I did my steroid cycle, right? Like that's when I'm like, I'm getting my pro card no matter what. And then I'm like, I got that NABA card and I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm going to go do something else. And I just think about that 7 years, what I would have done if I'd have got, and I've seen bodybuilders do it where it's like, I'll just take some more of this. I'll just take some more of this. And now you're seeing a bunch of guys dying, and we can all speculate to why they're dying, right? Like we can point to shots and viruses and all these things. But at the end of the day, if you're that big and you've put your heart through a lot of stress and you're not doing things like blood work and proper maintenance and proper nutrition, and you're going through the bulking and cutting cycles, you can't convince me that's not straining your organs, that's not straining your heart. And it's something that I'm kind of glad that, you know, I had to come back at 41 and get my pro card. But then again, I'm 44 now and I feel better than I did in my 20s. And I think it's because I took a break from bodybuilding and I went and I did something where I had to move, where I wasn't focused on hypertrophy. I was focusing on movement and movement prep and mobility and flexibility. Whereas bodybuilding, you tend to get caught in that hypertrophy merry-go-round where it's always about, I need another inch here. I need another 10 pounds here. And you'll do whatever it takes because you get a taste of it. You gain that 5 pounds and you notice, oh, what if I did this? I'll gain another 5. And you see it happening. So while steroids aren't in and of themselves addictive through a dopamine pathway, it's addictive through a visual pathway.
I'm going to tell you the three guys, I don't care what you think of them, anybody does. The three guys who have this game down pat are you, Clark Bartram, and Michael Hearn. The three of you guys have done that. When have you, and you've been somebody, and I'm not kissing your ass, I don't give a shit. You've been online for almost 20 years worth of content, and nobody can ever say, oh, look at Lowbliner in his off season. You never had that giant Lee Priest off season that we saw, you know, back in the 90s, where it's like, neither has Clark Bartram and neither has O'Hearn. So you guys have the system down right. Movement wise, oh God, I went back to coaching wrestling this last year. You
were telling me about that.
Everything hurts. It was the greatest thing in the world. Where I was like, you step in on the mat and all of a sudden I'm 18 again, and the smell of the mat and the feel of it under your feet, and all of a sudden these things come back out of nowhere. It's like, oh my God, yeah, my body does this and that, and my body couldn't do what my brain was telling me. But then, so I have not been on the mat since January. I hurt still now because of the lack of movement. I think your boxing helped your body heal. It's like knocking the rust off because you're moving dynamically instead of a one plane range of motion for hypertrophy. It's ridiculous. And again, it's the ego. Like I was never a bodybuilder, never wanted to be, couldn't do it, don't have the discipline, but I love powerlifting.
Yeah.
Heavy weights. And I'm at the point now where I'm not going to stop. So I think, and if anybody, especially if I could back you up on something, it's the people who follow you need to stay following you because you have it done right, where you can do sports, hypertrophy, strength. What the hell? We see you jacking around with 150-pound dumbbells for 10 to 12 reps on a flat bench. So you've got the strength in there. Your content is the proper structure for the athlete, the strength trainer, the hypertrophy person, all of it. So you've got it down pat, and then you've got 2 decades of worth of proof on it. So it's good shit.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a genetic component, but I also think that there's a lot of people out there with good genetics. My brother has similar genetics to me. He's way taller, which really sucks, but he's bald. So he could just look down at my head of hair. And, it's crazy because my brother and I have almost the same routine. Like he trains, he's been training every day for years. He was a natural pro bodybuilder. So I think that the main thing about my brother and I isn't necessarily the genetic component of muscle, because we both have bad body parts. Like my brother's stringy, kind of lean, really intimidating in clothes. Like really, like he's 6'1", 220. He's an intimidating guy, right? But he's been doing the same thing, eating 90% good, and he just doesn't fall off the program. And he's still, I mean, we still go out, we have burgers with our family, you know, we live normal lives. But here's a guy who simply, he doesn't do this for a living. He's a senior VP of and part owner of a digital marketing company. So I mean, you know, it's just, I think the one thing about my brother is whatever traits were instilled in us is what allowed us to have the lives we have, you know. And he's 50, he's the same age as you. So he's absolutely, the guy's a fucking beast. And I mean, it was funny because there is a genetic component, but my kids couldn't have further, like my daughter gains weight easy. My youngest one, he's kind of in the middle. He could lose weight, he could gain weight. And then Thomas, my middle child, this kid could eat at Golden Corral 5 meals a day and not gain an ounce. Like he has trouble getting over 126 pounds. Like and he's my height. Like he's shoving food down. I've never seen anything like it. So he was getting 5,000 calories from ice cream alone, I think, at one point. Geez. At that point, you don't dirty bulk, you just eat. Because he's burning. You've been wrestling, dude. He loses 4 pounds at one session. He's doing 2 to 3 a day sometimes. So I mean, good luck. Good luck eating enough chicken and rice to keep that
Enjoy it while you can, because you're going to hit that genetic wall of like in your the testosterone wall in your 40s, the 30s, and all of a sudden, ooh, here comes weight that I don't want that.
Yeah.
Why don't my pants fit anymore? So yeah, it's a big game. It's a big game. We're all screwed over with it.
Well, he's short-sighted, man. He just wants to wrestle in college. He's not worried about 40.
That's awesome. That's an awesome sight. I mean, again, it's the greatest sport on the planet. When I left it to go to martial arts, I was like, okay, that's one thing. And I couldn't believe how much, because I've been doing Wing Chun since 96. And, you know, great. I'm awesome at it. World known, whatever. But man, there was something just about stepping back on that mat where I was like, it was everything. It was my biggest passion in the world.
Well, I mean, look, man, I'm inadvertently creating, like my daughter won a regional title as a wrestler in her only season wrestling.
I saw all your kids throughout. That was fantastic.
Preston's been 2-time state champ. Thomas was 4th in state in high school in the biggest region. He actually made the whole state team, which was a huge honor. So yeah, it's been, I think Preston's ranked 8th nationally. So it's a
2-time state champ in your household.
Yeah. He makes me pay to talk to him at this point. He's like, you're an IFBB pro. That's a fake sport. I'm like, valid.
They did Forbes magazine. Forbes magazine had a article, I think it was 2014, that said that wrestlers make the absolute best employees.
They do,
because their tenacity. A 2-time state champion. That's, in my opinion, if somebody does that, you have to have the level of discipline to get there. And I think that's akin to how the military used to be. Now, I never went to the military, but had I gone to it, it would have been like, that's the structure you want to see in somebody. But a 2-time state champion,
at 12 years old.
How many people could say that?
Not me. I've never won state. I wish I did. It was my only goal in high school. And I would trade my FBB pro card for a state. My daughter has a state ring in soccer. I don't have shit. I have nothing. I got a pro card in a pageant sport, which I'm very proud of, by the way. I'm not discounting bodybuilding, but bodybuilders who say it's the toughest sport in the world have never wrestled. Go talk to go talk to Derek Lunsford, go talk to Martin Fitzwater. Both of those guys wrestled at a high level, and they're not going to make that claim. The only people who make that claim are people who never played other sports. If you've wrestled, you're going to be like, even MMA guys are like, which is the hardest discipline you learned? Wrestling.
So yeah, always wrestling. I have no experience in BJJ, but I love watching the wrestlers go to BJJ. We're hardcore. We're hardcore people. It's a level of intensity, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. So you mentioned the military. So you were in law enforcement for a long time. How many years did you serve?
Sworn from 2001 till 2019. Those are my years sworn, and I served for 3 different departments, all in the same area: Round Lake Beach, Round Lake Park, Round Lake Heights, and I had a great time doing it. And it was a big eye-opening experience for life.
So you see these videos, and you've gone really viral a lot of times for, pointing out the good and the bad that police officers do, which is great. We need accountability, and that's the beauty of social media, is the transparency, accountability, and education you get on social media. Everybody always likes to point to the bad things. I think social media is a net positive by a lot. So I look at, kind of what you see going on, and there's a lot of these videos with female officers just getting like 3 female officers getting destroyed by one dude who couldn't even, like, if you and I were to go one-on-one, it wouldn't be even close, even if we had no fighting experience whatsoever. So looking at physical fitness, do you believe that if we had more of a focus on physical fitness and resistance training and learning a fighting skill, such as boxing or jujitsu or wrestling, do you think that would bring down the instances of police shootings?
100%. And it's on so many different tiers for this conversation. Number one, when you're trained, and it's the old bull and the young bull joke, and I'm sure you've heard that. For anybody who hasn't heard it, I first heard it from the movie Colors, which is about a police
beautiful movie.
Anyways, and you had an old bull and a young bull standing on top of a hill grazing, and they look down on this pasture of cows. And the young bull says, "Hey, let's go run down there and fuck one of those cows." And the young bull goes, "No, let's walk down and fuck them all." It's the point of it. It's like the wisdom, right? Now I became a cop at 26 years old. I used to work at Dakota's Bar and Grill, which was a 4 a.m. bar in the Schaumburg area back in the 90s. And we had fights every day of the week. And I was a bartender who loved to get in the brawls, and my ego was fed. So by the time I got to be a cop, that shit was kind of out of my system. And I worked in a very high tense town. We had a lot of problems that Chicago and Milwaukee chased out of. I just did a video the other day and somebody's like, "You came from a 22 department town." It's like, no, I got all the shit that Milwaukee and Chicago chased out. That's where they moved. Cabrini Green had moved to beautiful Round Lake Beach, when they knocked that down. And I didn't have that need to prove myself. I think it's a couple different things. The first part is training. When you're trained, you do have that, "Oh, I want to test this shit out. Oh, I want to test it out." You people, men especially, I love to fight. I'm 50, and I can guarantee you, not one motherfucker on this planet can take me. That's my mentality. But to be honest, I'm 50, and all somebody has to do is outlast me for 15 seconds. I'm very aware of that. But when it goes to that mentality, I love getting in fights, but I also know what I could do to somebody else. So I have no pleasure in taking somebody into custody and hurting them. I learned that very quickly on. I also learned very quickly on that police always win. They always win. And you see these people who that the only reason that somebody was taken into handcuffs is because they had a backup of 5 or 10 other squad cars that show up. Otherwise, they would have lost the fight. So I think the first place is your confidence. If you can get past the maturity, and this is why I'm not a fan of 21-year-olds becoming cops, and I think that people in their late 20s or early 30s should become cops. And all of a sudden, I don't need to prove myself. You show up on scene, you're trained, you know what you can do, right? Mm-hmm. There's that confidence level, which then transfers into the lack of confidence level. The reason I'm so hard on female cops, and I do not believe female cops should be in the street, doesn't mean that's my opinion. Doesn't mean they can't do the job. I mean, it's a blanket statement. They shouldn't be. When you put somebody in a position where they're not physiologically capable of defeating somebody bigger, stronger, faster than them, they're automatically going to escalate their use of force. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be justified for it. I just talked about this. There was a female, a Harris County deputy, that her partner, she shows up on scene and her partner's got somebody at taser point. He's activated the taser. The guy's not complying. And she comes out. She's clearly untrained. I guess she has 18 years on. She's a fucking shit show. She comes out. She's fumbling with her handcuffs. She cannot do anything to put this person into custody. And her partner, who is very untrained, very unhealthy, fat, is on top of this person. This person is preventing its fight or flight. This person is trying to flight at this point. He's resisting. She shoots him. She shoots him. She murders him because that's all she has left to do. So if we go back to me, if I'm a cop and I openly admit on a podcast and I'm sworn, well, if you outlast me for 15 seconds, I should be suspended. I should be suspended because now I'm admitting, well, I'm going to take Lobliner into custody. And Lobliner is the same size as me. He's in better shape than me, better cardiovascular shape than me. I'm going to have to escalate my force and go to a pistol. Mm-hmm. The law is going to back me up as long as I can articulate that. Well, I was in fear for my safety. My use of force dictates on what my suspect did. So if you amp up, I can amp up. But if you're amping up as resisting more, which means I can't stay in the fight and I have to go to my pistol as the equalizer, that's a lawful problem that we need to address in America. It's horrible. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, when you're squared away and I used to tailor my shirts. I used to wear schmediums, tailor the arms, show up. My boots were polished. I'm 5'7". I have an attitude, but I love to show up and be like, and have people go, oh, I'm not going to fuck around because I don't want to find out. Versus you look like a slob. You're fat. You're out of shape. People are not good. They're automatically going to start resisting you in your head because they don't take you seriously. And then you throw in the fitness component, the lack of training component. You are going to endanger the public by using force greater than it was necessary because you're a fat, useless, out of shape, untrained piece of shit. Sadly, we have a bootlicker crowd. Well, the person shouldn't have resisted. No, we need to place the onus first on cops and mandate that they be in shape and be fit and be trained. But that's not the case either.
So what would the solution be? Better standards? Would the solution be? So for example, I know Jocko Willink makes a point that the Navy SEALs train for like 8 months for like 2 weeks or some crazy ratio. I forgot what it was. So I'm obviously misspeaking on that. Do you think that there's a way to mandate the training? Do you think there's a way to do more frequent updates, increase the standards? What do you think would be so let's say you have a magic wand or you're a police chief. Let's say you go back and, by the way, I would like to say Brentwood PD, Brentwood, Tennessee has the most fit, jacked, and capable police officers in the world. Their police chief is big on fitness. They put in a state-of-the-art weight training facility. They enforce good nutrition. They keep supplements on hand for them, which we donate when we can. I will say that there are some departments that get it, and Brentwood, Tennessee is one of them. Shout out to them. So if you were the police chief, what would you do? Let's say you were given free reign to do what you want. There's no laws, no rules. What would you do?
100% mandate fitness. 100%. It's termination worthy. Fuck the unions. It is what it is. And I was part of that, where in my last department, we implemented a fitness standard, but it was only to force one guy out. That was it. He was in his late 50s. Nobody liked him. Well, I got along with him great, but the chief and the deputy chief wanted him out. So we implemented a fitness policy because we knew he wouldn't keep up with it. That's bullshit. If you look at other departments, I remember there's some southern state back in like the early 2000s that tried to implement a fitness policy, and the guys voted their chief out of no confidence. Unions will tell you. Unions come up with the biggest excuses on the planet. Well, we can't allocate an hour of training time for pay because we can't force guys to do that. And they come up with excuses like crazy. The power test in Illinois that I had to take to become a cop was a 1.5 mile run under like 13 minutes and 26 seconds, which I hated. I just don't like the run. A sit and reach test. I had to get like 57 sit-ups and then bench press 95% of my weight. That was it. I was required to do that to pass the test in order to take the written. And then I had to do it the first day of the academy to make sure, that was it. Never again in my entire career as a cop was I ever required to do a fitness test. Never. Wow. So it's pride. You come from the Chicago area. The ratio of disgusting, slovenly Chicago police officers to professional looking ones, it's not even well balanced. So you don't take yourself seriously. Again, I've said it. I am overweight. I am obese for a smaller guy. I'm 5'7", 235, plus 25% body fat. You look at yourself in the mirror and you see tits and you're like, oh, I have no pride in myself. Well, if I have no pride in myself, do you not think that's going to transfer into every other one of the standards I have? So we know that physiology dictates your psychology. If you're healthy and you're well, you're going to get a smarter trained officer. You're getting an officer who maybe cleans his squad car more, knows the law more, shows up on scene more, and acts professionally more, versus the fat, slovenly, disgusting fucking pigs that we have on the street right now for cops who they just don't give a shit, and they fight their departments when it comes down to, I don't want to do this mandatory fitness. So I would mandate it. It would be 100%. If you are not jacked, if you are not fit, if your uniform is not tailored, if you do not look like a fucking stud on the street, you're suspended. You come back when you're able to do it. Standards, that is the biggest thing. When I went to the academy, I graduated in 2001. Champaign-Urbana, University of Illinois, Police Training Institute. We had this saying all the time. We hold ourselves to a higher standard. Do we? I've never fucking seen it. Never fucking seen it. I can't stand it. I made a statement, and all this time that's the goal of what I'm doing now with law enforcement content is I want these cops holding themselves to the highest standard possible. And people keep going, we got to pay him more. You got to do this more. You got to do that more. It blows me away to think of. So in order for me to hold myself to a higher standard, that means I have to put monetary value on it. Well, that's no integrity. If you're a cop and you enter into this profession, you know, A, it's thankless. B, you have the responsibility and or lawful authority to take away somebody's freedom anytime you can articulate it, or kill them anytime you can articulate it. And we want to humanize the badge and give these motherfuckers a break. It shouldn't. We should have the highest standards of any profession on the planet of our police. But we don't. We don't. And that's where we need to start. So it needs to be elevate the standards higher than anything else. And if you don't cut it, get the fuck out. And I don't care if we run a skeleton crew across America until it gets done right, it will get it right. It'll attract the people who have a level of pride to do this.
Wow. Well, that brings me. So I actually got a lot of slack once, probably a couple years ago, because I don't think it's fair in the military, and I don't think it's fair in police and fire that men and women are held to different physical standards. And let me explain. On the battlefield, they don't care if you're a female or a male. If you cannot do the job, you are going to lose your life. Or in the case of policing, you might take someone else's life for the inability to disarm them or to neutralize them without using increased force. So, number one, I'd like to ask, who came up with the idea that there should be different fitness and fitness standards for men and women? Number two, should women, unless they could pass these fitness standards, even be on the street as police officers?
No, not even close. It's a bigger reason than that. I am 100% anti-female cop on the street. Again, it doesn't mean that they can't. I just did some content today of a female cop who did a phenomenal job in Riverside, California. Would have put a suspect in a rear naked choke, but policy and law prohibits that. But again, are exceptions to the rule. There's a lot of guys who should not be police officers at all. When we were younger growing up, I remember my mother, you can't ever be a cop. Because back in the 90s, up until the early 90s, was a 5'8" minimum requirement of height.
Really?
Oh yeah, could not do it. So that was eradicated. When you change the standards, the person that suffers the most is the citizen. Again, it all comes back down to force. You know, I could get into the whole thing of, well, the psychology of women is different. Women operate on emotion far more. Well, a woman has a bad fucking day and she's going through her cycle and she snaps. Her discretion for what she arrests you versus I arrest you for is going to be different. But the bigger problem is the relationship between the men and women. Now, I worked with a couple damn different good females, and 3 or 4 of them I would take at war any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But I had a different view of them. And if we went to a call together, I was overly protective of them. That's the psychology that people don't get and why women are a danger on the street. There was a female New York cop a couple months ago that got just jacked right in the face, just blasted by a guy. And you see her being held up by a citizen. She can't even stand. And her face is all bloodied. And her male cop, her partner, is trying to take this other guy into custody. He's not taking him into custody, though. He is beating the shit out of this guy. And that's the problem. The problem is if you and I are going to go take somebody into custody and there comes our sister in blue and our sister in blue is getting the shit beat out of her, we're going to be thinking more about protecting her because that's the masculine innate. I have to protect my sister, or maybe one of us is fucking her. So we got a relationship there and it's intimate. And that it's a psychological deterrent to have females on the street. They are a danger to their male partners. They're a danger to the citizens, and they're a distraction. And again, too, you can't take me into custody. I used to teach classes for NEMRT, Northeast Multi-Regional Training, and we used to do defensive tactics. And we geared it towards both men and women separate. But we would do a separate female class. And every time we went in there, it's like, hey, which one of you ladies can take me into custody all by yourself? I try. That's not the answer. Now, guys were never better, but if you ask me, I'll walk into a room full of people. Not one of you motherfuckers could take me into custody. That's the mentality. Doesn't mean it's the reality, but that's the mentality. You need to go into anything. I don't care if it's business or if it's competition. You need to have that mindset. Women don't have that mindset. So again, and I talked about this many times, we also give them a pass. The problem is the culture and the community back them up. If Mark Lobliner gets stopped by me, and Mark Lobliner is resisting, and the public gets out and sees this monster of a guy in a tight shirt, jacked up, and I go, and I'm the same height and size and all this shit, they're going to go, oh, Izzo better use all the force necessary to take him into custody, right? He better not go to a baton, OC, otherwise he's a pussy. But if a female pulls you over, you get out, you're all jacked and this and that, and eventually after a 6-minute struggle, she goes to her pistol, they're going to go, he fucked around, he found out. We give her permission to use deadly force because she can't do the job. And what people don't understand is use of force is dictated by the subject. Meaning if you go from 0 to red, I can go from all the way to red until you drop down, then I drop down. The problem is with females and useless, weaker, fat male cops, they dictate use of force because they can articulate, I was in fear for my safety. I was losing the fight. I had to. And the law fucking backs them up. I have a massive problem with that.
I can see why you do. I see that. So a lot of issues around policing, and I'd love to get your take on this, is that police officers are inherently racist. And that is why there's more black criminals based on statistics than white criminals, because they are treated more harsh by the law. So when looking at statistics and looking at what you experienced in, well, an area of a suburb of Chicago, which is extremely diverse, we can use that word. What do you think is causing the problems? And again, feel free to state your opinions. I'm sure everybody, like, we're about open chat here. I know this is about fitness, but this is also about your life. And I also want to go over, after we're done with that, like how to deal with interactions with police officers. Because a lot of people go into it like there's a chip on their shoulder, when in reality, here's my opinion. We go in this after this, and this is kind of a leading question, but my thing is like, comply and sue later. Because no one's going to win if you get into it with a cop, and you're sure not going to win. So, because I mean, your life is at stake, because they're always, like, being a cop's got to be stressful, because you never know who's going to be that guy. You know, you pull somebody over, you see those videos all the time of cops getting blasted. But let's get back to the race issue. What is going on in the communities that is causing the disparity between black crime and every other race, basically?
Culture. Every culture has a crime connected to it. And the two factors for culture are what language you speak and how you look. That's why in Chicago, what do we have? Ukrainian Village, Little Italy. What's the one off of North Avenue? Humboldt Park, where Puerto Ricans live. Bronzeville, anything south of 290. So it's not like you Chinatown. I don't speak Cantonese or Mandarin. I wouldn't move there. It's not because I'm racist, because I don't fit in with that culture. If I learned the culture, I would go there. So pattern recognition and culture is huge. I will tell you, anytime somebody sits there and talks about racial profiling, 100% exists. 100% exists. We used to joke when I used to do a detail. I forget, the hardest laugh I ever had in my life was my Hispanic partner and I are in the car, and we watched going down Main Street, this guy who is driving perfect speed limit to the fucking button, hands at 10 and 2, seatbelt on, drive straight ahead, and he's a Hispanic male. We looked at each other and said, no valid. We both knew he didn't have a license. That's why he's driving that way. You see pattern recognition. I've used this one a lot too. You get a call to a liquor store, retail theft, bottle of Hennessy and a pack of Cools. Oh, I'm going to look for a fucking white guy on that one. So number one, pattern recognition and culture is the thing, right? We have the issue too. I argued with Dr. Rashad Ritchie once on his podcast, talking about the fact that it was consent searches, or searches that showed that the black culture, black community was searched an equivalent number of times, or if not disproportionately more than whites. And there was found that whites had more contraband or arrested on them. And that was his argument. And it's always going to be the argument of people, well, blacks are arrested more, blacks are searched more, but whites have more crimes on them. No one ever talks about the initial contact for why police interacted with them in the first place. And it could come down to maybe blacks speed more. Maybe blacks don't use their turn signal more. Maybe blacks don't know that on a walk up and consent search, they could say, no, you're not searching me. Maybe they don't know that. And not to mention the fact that, again, like I said, this is where I've defended them. I ran for Cook County Sheriff in 2018 out here in Chicago. And I noticed that we have a legitimate racial, systemic racism problem in America. We do. Cook County has a jail, and it's one of the number one biggest jails in the nation. It's not a prison. It's not a correctional facility per se, meaning that you're not convicted. You're still innocent until proven guilty. So you're in the process point. And when I ran, I found this out. And this should send people a message that, holy shit, systemic racism in law enforcement is real, but you just don't realize how. And the cop always gets the blame for it. When the current sheriff or current sheriff who's in office, when he first got in, there were three directors: a director of the jails, director of the streets, and director of the courts. Rod Blagojevich, when he went to prison, Pat Quinn took over. Well, Pat Quinn, who was the lieutenant governor, when he lost his reelection bid, or because he was put in, you had all of a sudden all of these people, all of these Democrats who needed jobs. Well, now all of a sudden you can go to the Cook County website and check out. You have a director of acupuncture in the Cook County Jail, director of arts and crafts, director of lobbies. There were 300 created positions. Do the math. 300 salaries need to be justified. Now, I've always asked, what does a non-correctional facility need with programs? These are innocent men and women. If it's a prison, yes, correct them. Offer corrective programs, rehabilitate them to go back into society so they function better. When it comes down to just the due process part of waiting for your trial, no, I don't want that. Well, if you have these programs, like all of a sudden I go up one day and I'm going to rub elbows with my local alderman in Chicago and somebody who's on the Cook County board. And I go, hey, listen, I got a program. It's a 12-week program that's going to rehabilitate criminals. And you come in, you talk about your feelings. They get, we're going to color in a book, all this. I want you to implement that. Well, now all of a sudden you need bodies to go to that program to justify the $120,000 a year that you're going to pay me to run this program. So that means judges need people in front of them in order to say, as part of your sentencing and conviction, you're going to attend this program for 12 weeks. Well, that means the jail needs bodies in there to send there. Well, if you're in the jail then, and then Mark Lobliner with Tiger Fitness says, hey, man, we're going to start a new line of toothpaste or deodorant or clothing line. I want a contract with the Cook County Jail because they have 9,000 to 10,000 bodies a year fluctuating through them versus this jail in whatever county that has 100 people in there. You're going to want that contract. Well, if you get that contract, you're going to make sure that people are being put into the jail to get to your uniforms or use your commissary equipment. Then you have your defense attorneys, your state's attorneys. It's all a big system. And then your cop. Well, the cop doesn't necessarily want to do shit, right? I would rather, and I loved it, drive around for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, do fucking nothing and collect a paycheck. Yeah. But it's beaten into them that the culture is bad. And the culture is synonymous with cannabis and drugs and all this shit. And then the states create laws that you could stop a black person, whatever the fuck you want. It's all over the place. Illinois Vehicle Code, state statutes, village ordinances. Hey, you walked across the street against the light, put your hands against the fucking car. You need bodies in the jail. So now to pressure that, you create a quota system, and it's a performance evaluation. Oh, police don't have quota. Fuck, they don't. The fuck they don't. It's called a performance evaluation. If you don't get your certain number of points, which are based off of arrests, detainments, felony arrests, then you're also all of a sudden disciplined. Do you want to be? You got your family. You're on day shift, man. You get to go home and you got weekends off, all this, but all of a sudden you didn't meet your quota, your performance evaluation. So they're going to take you out of the brand new squad car, put you in the shit box with no AC in the summertime, send you on midnights away from your family because you didn't play ball. So you're going to play ball. And the easiest common denominator is the black community. Because they're fucking kept ignorant. They're all kept isolated in their own community. Their high school, their CPS, Chicago Public Schools, doesn't give a shit about those kids. The teachers fucking strike more than they teach. So you have a non-stop perpetuation farming every generation. Let's pump out some more kids, pump them right back in the prison system. So yes, if you look at that shit, systemic racism is 100% real in the community, but that culture keeps it going. Hey, let's put out more gangster rap shit. Let's make this drug and this alcohol on every fucking corner in an impoverished black neighborhood. Let's let the gangs thrive. You're farming the black kids non-stop for the prison system. It is 100% real. But sadly, that perpetuates crime. And the only person who ever gets attention is the street cop. That's it. You don't talk about the judges. Don't talk about the attorneys. Don't talk about the people who have programs, the people who are directors of shit. No one ever talks about that. It's the fucking cop who always takes the shit because, oh, you were racially profiling. The motherfucker fit the pattern. It's the culture. And that's how it goes.
I've never heard that take before. Holy shit. That is wild. I don't know who would be upset at that except maybe the government. So do you see it as a party issue, like Democrat, Republican? Do you think Democrats are more likely, or is it just money?
No, it's money. I'm gonna tell you flat out. When I ran for sheriff, I ran as a Republican out here in Illinois. We don't have Republicans. They're slimy cocksuckers who just sit there and support the same shit. It's a money factor. You can't stop it. You can't if they really cared about solving the black. When I ran for sheriff too, the culture's different. I didn't want to pander to the black culture, and I avoided campaigning in any of their areas for a long time. And then one day I get this hair up my ass. I'm going down to, I went down to the Austin neighborhood, and then I went down to like Garfield Park, I think I was, and walking around Saturday, 2:00 in the afternoon, white guy by myself. Everybody thought I was fucking crazy, but everyone was listening to me. I never felt I felt safe as shit, but I noticed something. It's the kids. The younger kids, let's just say 22, 25 and younger, they got a mindset, piss and vinegar, testosterone. You have to look at it this way too. In the city of Chicago, you do have some of the poorest neighborhoods. And I love all the white liberals. We need to create peace, love, and hair grease. Sell your fucking Winnetka home and go move to the south side then. Go ahead and integrate in those neighborhoods. Let's see how you do. And they won't do it. So you got the pattern of a family. We know that the lack of family is an issue. Mom works her ass off, 2-3 jobs. She has 3 or 4 kids. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment with no central AC, a window unit maybe. Now you're asking this 13, 14, 15-year-old kid who's testosterone. He just wants to be independent and have his fun and maybe talk to some girls. Now he's got to babysit for mom. And in summertime in Chicago, it's humid. It sucks. You're trapped indoors. And you've got this angst that is just, what do you do with it? They have no creative outlet for it. So that's where I absolutely see that issue. But when it comes down to this, you're looking at this perpetuation of just failure rate for this culture. No one wants them to succeed. If they did, they would fix the schools. If they did, they would absolutely have, when I went back to the culture, talking to people, the 25 and older crowd, there was 2 differences. 25 and younger was like, what are you going to do for us? You're running for sheriff. What are you going to do for us? The older crowd, what are you going to do for us? Big fucking difference. And I was like, oh my God, it's not a race problem at all. It's a cultural problem. And the problem, especially in Chicago, is the young keyword, urban, fatherless, criminal, uneducated, and then throw in black because that's part of that culture community. That's the problem that I saw more than anything. So they don't. They're set up to just be disaster, and it's a sad. It's perpetuated because that's how they keep them down and oppressed.
Yeah, and it's you have this saying on X, and it bothers me. There's not a race problem. There's a problem race. But then again, if you integrate communities, I'm not talking about overflow people. I'm not talking about move Section 8 housing into Brentwood, Tennessee. But you see those cultures thriving when they're amongst other cultures that thrive. And so it's not like an innate feature. Look, having more melanin in your skin does not make, look, if you looked at our DNA under a microscope, you got to be really good at DNA stuff to even tell it apart. Like, you got to be really good at that. So I always have this thing. It is a cultural issue. I put it back to the, 77% of Black families had a nuclear family in the 60s, which I would say we'd all say was a much more racist time, pre-civil rights era, right? Now you have less than 20% of Black families in the inner city who have a father in the household. That is a huge issue, and nobody wants to talk about it. And we always talk about, oh, well, we need to save Ukraine and we need to save all these. Look, here's the deal. Why don't we take those billions of dollars and put some programs in the inner city? Why don't we take all that money we sent to Ukraine and put it in Chicago, but have somebody in there like Elon and Doge to take out all of those programs, all of those acupuncturists in the jails. There are ways to do this, but the problem is you're racist if you talk about it. And nobody can bring up these points. And my point is legit. I grew up in an area where many of my friends were either killed by gang violence or ended up in prison. So I have been, everybody's like, you don't know what it's like. No, Elgin, motherfucker.
Yeah, you do.
No, I didn't grow up in Elgin. I grew up around Eaglewood, California.
Oh, jeez.
So I was in that area. That's where my friends were. I actually lived in Culver City, but that was where I rolled. And I will tell you this. I know exactly what the problem in those communities are. And I know, especially after what you told me, how we could fix it. And the problem is you have to root out the damage done by the bureaucracy, done by the evil Republicans and Democrats who are in there just fleecing their friends and making themselves rich. It's kind of like insider trading in Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I love her, but man, she did buy on the dip perfectly, didn't she? Nancy Pelosi, if we followed her stock market trades, dude, we'd be billionaires by now. It's a dirty game. And why would someone, think about it, why would someone get into politics? They make 160 grand a year. 160 grand is their salary, yet they're all worth 20 million plus.
Money.
It's because the money's coming back. Look at Biden and the whole thing with Ukraine and Burisma. Dude, this isn't shitting on Biden. I started with Marjorie Taylor Greene, so you can't get me for, you're MAGA. No, dude, I'll call a spade a spade. And at the end of the day, we're not going to fix this problem unless we have these discussions. But here's the problem. Elon goes in with Doge and he starts taking apart these programs, starting with USAID and all this stuff. And what happens? The tribal left gets together and say, oh, he's addicted. No. All he's doing is auditing. He has no power to fire anyone. He's just telling the Trump, hey, man, I'm seeing a bunch of shit over here. Trump's like, okay, I'm going to fire him. And he's calling out what they're doing. That's the problem, is that the machine and the media are so powerful that as soon as you start dismantling the machine gets all these sheep, all these idiots that I'll call Democrats, and just as a generic name, but let's call them Democrats. And they're going out and keying electric cars, which I thought were saving the earth. So that's the problem. That is why, to compound on what you said, Izzo, we will never fix this issue because the machine on both sides, mostly on the left, but don't get me wrong, there are some morons on the right. Okay, the machine is so powerful and the psyop is so powerful that if we try to fix society itself will prevent it from being fixed.
They won't know how to course correct. One of the biggest problems, and nobody wants to hear this one. You want to go back to the Black community for a second? It's not the Black males. It's the women. It's the mothers, Black mothers. I listened to a University of Chicago professor talk 20 years ago about the fact that he believes that Black violence, and he was a Black man, stems from Black females in the household. And I've said it. You ever want to lose an argument in public, go watch and the videos are all over the place. Number one, yeah, social media has vilified the Black community horrible because all we see is their trash behavior. That's it. You never see the good stuff. You just never do. But we see it's the loud, lack of impulse control females who they start the violence in the home. And what he also attributed to was fetal alcohol syndrome. If you look at the Black diet, what do we have? The Black diet. You get how much piss poor, horrible, poisonous food are people putting in their body. And then when you base a culture around that, you're going to pass it on genetically to your child. If you look at the number one most thriving business in a impoverished neighborhood is liquor store. So they talked about that, but I watched it play in the system. I can't tell you how many domestics, and this was the worst thing. This was the worst thing about being a cop fucking ever. You go to a domestic, and domestic laws, every agency has a policy that is it's a must arrest. Domestics are the only laws that are offenses that a cop must arrest if he or she sees a physical indication of injury. And we got to the point where we didn't fucking give a shit if you had an injury or not. We would take everybody involved and let the state's attorney figure it out. That's how worried we were about getting sued and shit. But anyways, numerous times I go to calls. Women knew how to play the system. Black women more than anybody else. They'd call 911 because their boyfriend, baby daddy, rarely ever husband, was not giving her the attention she wanted. He was out all day, comes back home, plays video games. She would call 911. He's doing this. He's doing that. And the second you walk in, you just see the guy quiet, sitting there. You know, he didn't do shit. Yeah. Well, here's where the cycle will be perpetuated. After hearing her side of the story, she's hysterical, all this, you'd look and go, you got a place you can go tonight? Can I take you to your friend's house, this and that? You coax him because you couldn't order him out of the home, but you say, hey, listen, if I come back here, I'm going to have to arrest somebody. The law's, it's going to lean on you because the law always sides with women. I can't tell you how many women I knew would scratch their arms, scratch their face, all this shit. They did it on purpose. But as we would walk, not handcuff, as we would walk the black man out of his own fucking home just to go give him a ride somewhere else, you'd have these black women right in front of their kids. Look what the police doing to your daddy. You fucking, I hate it.
I know the word. I know the word. We refrain from the C word on this channel, but I know the word you're about to say.
That was it. And it's like, I can't believe you would do that. So what do these kids grow up with? They knew that their police ripped their father out of the home and they listened to the mother and they grow up with that. That's how the males, the boys are introduced to violence. If you look at the black culture specifically, it's not DNA, it's pattern recognition and learned behavior. Why do we have this culture? Urban, young, fatherless. You know, why do they hit women at the rate that they do? Why, when they knock you on the ground, will they stomp on your head? You see black men without any hesitation walk into a scene on somebody's video they posted up on Instagram where they just open or close fist wail on a female without any care whatsoever. I'm going to tell you that's not a male taught behavior. That's a pattern recognition that if they're going to learn it from somebody, they're going to see it from the parents if they're on scene. It's going to be taught. And I truly by what the professor said. And I wish I remember what his name was. Is that men in the household, boys grow up to be men, and they learn that violence from the mothers because the mothers can get away with it.
Wow. Well, all we could do is mentor as many children as possible as strong men. And I believe that's where coaches play a role. I had coaches involved in my life, because men and women, girls too, like you need a strong male in your world. You need a strong male. You need a strong influence because like you say, it's pattern recognition. We've used that term multiple times in this podcast. Pattern recognition doesn't have to come from your parents, right? So you can see a man do good things and you can emulate that. Like, I want to be like that guy. What does he do? How does he conduct himself? How does he treat people? And those are things that I think as a community, meaning as America, that we need to focus on. And I would like to see, I do think that youth sports can play a huge role. You hear these stories about, kids coming from the hood and getting out of it, and with football and basketball and baseball and soccer. And there's so many avenues. So I think through sport, I always say youth sports can save the world.
100%.
And people heckle me for it, but I don't think people understand that I am someone that youth sports saved. And that's the reason why I will never make money with my performance facility. That's the reason why I have it, because it's an altruistic endeavor for my wife and I to do something for the community, because I know the power of sport. I know the power of strong male role model, and I know the power of community, and that gym, that team, that becomes your new family. And you can speak on this because you were obviously on the streets. But the gang is a family. It's La Familia, whatever you want to call it. What if you, and people want family. They want to belong. Look at cults. Look at religion. I mean, look at everything. People want to belong. So instead of joining a gang to give you that family, everybody wants to be a part of a family. It's a human need. What if they were able to join a team or be able to be a part of something bigger, something better? And so we can sit here and wail all along about, the black community, the trailer community, the Hispanic community, whatever. What are we going to do about it? What is the solution? And nobody has solutions. All we do is hear these pundits on the right and the left throw out the white guilt and white privilege. And then you got black people are bad. It's like, dude, we're going to have to coexist some way or another. So how can we work as a community, as a culture, meaning an American culture, to bring up every community? And the answer is we need to all do our part to give back. If every adult did their part in giving back to their local community, to the children, that would help. Because there's a lot of kids, even in my community, which is an affluent community, they need male role models. They need a father figure. And that's pretty much my message for this, my takeaway. And I know that's kind of veering off course, but I always look at, as a manager, as someone who runs companies, if an employee comes to me, they're like, I'm having trouble hitting my numbers. It's like, okay, cool. What are we going to do to correct that? Right? Like, what are we going to do to get those numbers hit? What are your plan of actions? What are your SOPs to get there? And those standard operating procedures. So those are things I look at. So, I mean, we're coming close on our time. So what would be your message to make America great again?
Get the women out of it. Dude, women ruined it. We grew up in an era. If you and I had a problem growing up in high school, what is eventually going to lead to?
Fight.
And then what happens after we fight?
We become friends.
Every fucking mother in America ruined that. You are depriving your male children of growing up with that rite of passage to either go, man, I got my ass kicked and I survived. There is so much learning in that. And then the other part of it, I kicked someone's ass, didn't feel too good, but I respect that guy for taking that beating. You could have all the sports you want in the world. Keep the moms out of it. That's the biggest problem. There's no competitive drive and there's a ceiling. We know where this all came from. Participation awards. Everybody gets a trophy. You need to lose in life. And the best part about sports, it's a controlled environment. You lose, you don't die. That's a good thing. The problem is with gangs and whatnot, there's no more thrill in sports. This is where wrestling, in my opinion, shit the bed in America. Rulon Gardner, back in the Olympics, when he defeated Krellin, undefeated for all those Olympics, he didn't defeat Krellin. We celebrated this fat fucking Olympic farm boy because he won because Krellin lost 2 points. Krellin, he had a locked hands or something, and it cost him a point. So Rulon Gardner won, and we celebrated. That was a title shift to all of a sudden win by any cost, and you're going to win. I wouldn't be celebrating that win. I'd be like, I defaulted. I defaulted in the win on it. You progress now, you have no thrill of victory. You look, I had an argument with the last coach I was wrestling for. They didn't like how intense I was. Are you kidding me? These kids, they have no outlet for shit. In a gang, you do. You go steal. That's thrilling. You go do a drive-by. That's thrilling. You go beat somebody up. That's thrilling. Go try to run from the police. That's a dopamine adrenaline dump like there is no other.
It's all dopamine. Yep.
What do you do after? I used to say this all the time. Whenever the guys got shot with 22 rounds up by us, it's a fucking joke. They'd go to prison. You know, you get shot, you shoot somebody, you go to jail for 6 months to a year. You're going to survive because it's 22. But now you are elevated to God status in your gang because you got shot. You survived. War stories all the time. Nobody has that shit because we have vilified masculinity. And the only people who have vilified masculinity are women. They're the ones who project whatever people want to see on the gender issue. That's your business. You don't see men pushing that. You see feminine energy. Women are so damn confused when it comes to their role because us men stopped saying, hey, listen, I lead the family. I lead this. You break that up in the minority families. Now that's where you get all the problem because you have no strong male role models. You're making sense. Everything you just said is the square peg in the square hole, or it is what it is. But women have had such a powerful voice because they're oppressed and we have to take them into consideration and vilify masculinity. No, this is crime, lack of status, lack of acceptance. All that shit stems from one fucking thing. And you said it, lack of male role models. That's all it is.
Yeah, I guess I see things differently. My wife's very, very talented at business, a great leader. But when it comes to the hierarchy of the household, yeah, I mean, when it comes to the children, yeah, I'd say that, my wife feel like, oh, his knee hurts. I'm like, shut up, play on it. It's not broken, right? So I think that we just have that lack of command. No, I'm telling the kid to shut up, not my wife. She's Italian.
Oh, so, she got like my mother ran the household. My mother ran the household, yes, for 50 years. Or 70 years.
I manage the household, but I also know that her people, they've done some bad things. They can't win a world war for the life of them, but I mean, I don't fucks with Italians.
They can extort the shit out of a culture. That's cultural. You have certain cultures. My father, who was never the head of the household. My father's the greatest man I know. He defaulted to my mother all the time. So I never knew strong role models growing up of masculine nature.
I'd say we're equal, but there's certain things that discipline wise, my kids just don't listen. They just don't. My kids are just, they're too alpha. They need to know that because they know that all of my kids can beat up my wife if they wanted to. And I think
you're still in the home. There's a switch though. There's a switch. God forbid the worst thing in the world, and dad is going to be activated. It's the threat.
I've never hit my kids. I've never hit them.
Yeah. In case of emergency, break glass. They know it's behind there, and I think that's the key. And we've just demasculined men in so many other cultures and empowered women that it's just. It's confusing. You're not meant to have a certain role. I am not meant to love and nurture and be. I can act lovingly, but I'm just not meant to do that. I'm meant to compartmentalize my feelings, power through shit, get shit fucking done, and be dependent on. That's it.
Absolutely. We can agree on that. But we need to have you back on, man. We could talk for days. You and I we have so much in common, including our height. I think that's the main thing.
Before you go, because I want to answer. If you interact with a cop, he was right. Shut your fucking mouth. Say nothing. Nothing.
That's what I meant to bring up. Yeah. So the best, again, I'll answer this for both of us. Comply, and if they violate, sue later. Like, that's it. Don't be one of those guys. Like, don't be a libertarian. No. Don't be one of those guys. Those guys, I mean, look, man, most of the time, like, I've been pulled over. And one time, I'll leave it there. I had to tell one more story. Do you have a couple seconds?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was during the BLM stuff, right? It was during the race stuff. And it was during the Obama race riots, different race riots. So I'm driving from my home in Illinois to Ohio. I get pulled over by a state trooper. I'm in a red Ford Fusion with MTS Nutrition on the back. It wasn't by any means, I didn't fit any description. I was going 72 and a 70. I don't speed. And he pulled me over, and this guy, he came in hot, hand on holster, and he was visibly like, roll down here. I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, my hands are on the wheel. I'm reaching for my license, and my insurance is in the console, and I got it out. And afterwards, he goes, he's like, man, I'm so sorry. He's like, all this stuff going on in the world. I've been on edge lately. The dude like broke down and started confessing to me. If I would have been like, what you pulling a gun on for, bitch? What would that have done? Look, cops at the end of the day, we could talk all the shit we want about them. They need to be held to higher standards, but it is such a stressful job. You see these guys who just go pull over a random car. Next thing you know, someone shoots them. So that's always in the back of their mind. And it was something that was going on. So, I mean, just be cognizant that nothing good comes from arguing with a police officer. Again,
you're always outnumbered. You're always outnumbered on the street.
And you're outgunned.
You're outgunned. It sucks. You will lose. And say absolutely nothing. Keep in mind,
pride is a bitch.
A fish only gets caught when they open their mouths. Say nothing.
Yes. I am the most, again, like, and I'm very fortunate. to live where I live. We have the best police officers in the world. And I say, you got to come here if you're ever out here. And I know I've been trying to get you out here for a while.
I came through that ice storm you guys had.
Yeah. You could, that would, any extra minute would have risked your life. Right. But I want to just introduce you to some of the cops here. They're at all the high school football games. These guys chop it up with people. They all got arms this fucking big. Like it is what you would think is how police should be done. So we are very fortunate to have Brentwood PD, and Franklin PD is just as good. Metro Nashville, I'm going to hold my thoughts on that one. I'm going to just hold my thoughts on that one. But everyone I met from Metro is awesome, actually. I'm kidding. So I know a lot of those guys. They're awesome. They just sometimes they get caught up in the political sphere of Nashville. But Metro Nashville has some of the best cops. I was playing about the Metro Nashville. Everybody I've met at Metro has been good dudes and females too. Everybody's cool. Yeah, but it's Tennessee. The state's on your side. When you're in a state like Illinois, Pritzker, he wants to hire illegal immigrants as cops, which is weird. You're getting arrested by a non-citizen. You're literally breaking the law just being here.
I don't know why I'm still here every time I say
I don't either. Well, next time there's a property available, I will send you the listing.
I might have to move. Yes.
I have a spare. I mean, I got the guest quarters right over there, right past this wall. He's got his own bathroom. Dude, we just got another half. We got like 3/4 of a cow left in the freezer. Like, you're welcome anytime.
It's awesome. I'm coming to visit.
I got some venison. Dude, my buddy brought me some venison.
That's the best shit. That is the best shit on the planet.
Oh, man. Yeah, you would love it here. But Izzo, where can they find you?
Anybody who likes the content I'm doing, you got if you're on YouTube, Izzo Wing Chun. It is Bruce Lee's first martial art. If you know me, I don't like Bruce Lee. You can check out how much better I am than him. Izzo Wing Chun for all your martial arts, defensive tactics aspect, and Cop Talk Live. If you want more about law enforcement content, me holding them accountable, going over use of force issues, and how, yes, it's 100% lawful for them to shoot a 17-year-old autistic boy with a knife. Cop Talk Live here on YouTube as well, too. That's where they can find me.
Instagram. His Instagram is the best Instagram I follow.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dominic. I'll link all of those down below. Anyway, brother, thank you so much for being on here. There's no audience this won't hit. We talked about fitness, but we also talked about things. Part of fitness is staying alive and making your community better. And that's what we talked about here. Thank you so much for joining, guys. There's going to be an ad at the end because it's always awkward when you end to dead silence. So appreciate you coming on, brother. And again, follow him. And if he's selling anything, buy it. I don't even care what he's selling. Just buy it. Thanks so much, brother. We'll see you guys next time. If you're like me, you have trouble getting in a gram of protein per pound of body weight. It's a lot. For me, I weigh over 210 pounds. That's a lot of protein. So one hack I have is to drink protein throughout the day, just like I would drink water. But basically, I just mix a shaker, couple scoops of Planta. That's 40 grams of protein. It's 20 grams per scoop, and I'm good to go. So here's what I do in the morning. So instead of just normal coffee, I make delicious coffee. So first thing you do is you just pour a little bit of coffee on the bottom, just to kind of separate it so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Then you take your Planta, rip open a bag. This is the melted chocolate. It's delicious, tastes amazing, amazing in coffee. And this one is all natural, no artificial sweeteners or flavors. Come in, boom, 1 scoop, 2 scoops, and then you take the coffee right here, fill up the rest. And I'm going to show you how it doesn't explode. So when you have hot liquids, it can definitely explode. The cup can explode. So you put it in, give it a little shake, burp it. Give it a little shake, burp it. Now you're free to shake it up. Just make sure. And you are good to go. That is better than any coffee you will have at any coffee house you can go to. So delicious. Any flavor works, but I really like the melted chocolate. Anyway, try this out, and then throughout the day, I'll have 2 more shakes. For 3 shakes, that gets me up to 120 grams of protein. So if you want to go a little bit higher, like 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, I'm good to go. And we've made it even easier to find Planta nationwide.
We are available at GNC. We are the #1 plant protein at the Vitamin Shop. We are in Meijer. That's right, Meijer this month. And soon this summer, we are coming to your local Walgreens. And don't forget about our favorites, Hy-Vee out there in the Midwest. Anyway, guys, this is my way to get an extra protein throughout the day. That's so good. And with Planta, you don't have to worry about stomach upset. It is dairy-free, lactose-free, and amazing. Plus, we have the added amino acids, so the amino acid profile is closer to that of a whey protein than that of your normal plant protein. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Hopefully this helps you reach your protein goals. Enjoy your Planta. Have a great day.